Hi everyone, it's Deacon Matt. I'm here at St. Michael's up by the St. Joseph altar and by the votive candles, where we have on display this sort of poster describing the Eucharistic miracle of Lanciano in Italy. During these years of Eucharistic revival, things like the Eucharistic miracles can help bolster our faith and our love for Jesus in the Eucharist. So I'd invite you to come up here. You can sort of read about the miracle and see some of the pictures. But today I'd sort of like to describe the story of the Eucharistic miracle of Lanciano. The miracle occurred in the 8th century, perhaps around the year 750, in the town of Lanciano in Italy. There was a Basilian monk who was celebrating Mass at a church dedicated to Saint Longinus. It was his monastery. And now this monk had been experiencing doubts about Jesus' real presence in the Eucharist. When it came to that Mass, when he came to the words of consecration, and he said, "This is my body, and this is my blood," something miraculous happened. The host, the bread, miraculously transformed into actual human flesh, and the wine miraculously transformed into actual human blood. Shortly after the miracle, the blood congealed, hardened into these 5 globules or 5 clots of blood, sort of representing the 5 wounds of Christ: the wounds in his hands, the wounds in his feet, and the wound in his side. The miracle of Lanciano is still visible in the city of Lanciano in Italy today, in the Church of St. Francis. It's on display in a sort of reliquary. Up above, there's sort of this monstrance where the host that had become flesh is visible. And below, there's sort of a crystal chalice that contains the 5 clots of blood. Over the years, several sort of scientific or medical tests have been carried out on the Eucharistic species of Lanciano. For example, in the 16th century, the 5 clots of blood were weighed on a scale, and it was found that each of the 5 clots weighed the exact same amount. And even after all of them were put together on the scale, it was still the same amount. Theologically, this shows us that even in the smallest particle of the host, or even in a single drop of the most precious blood, the whole Christ is present, with all of his body, all of his blood, all of his soul, and all of his divinity. A little later on, in 1970 and 1971, more tests were carried out on the Eucharistic miracle of Lanciano. In those tests, it was determined that the flesh was real human flesh, and the blood was real human blood. It was even determined that the flesh was the heart muscle tissue from a human heart, and that the blood type in both the flesh and the blood was type AB. Interestingly, this is the same blood type found, for example, on the Shroud of Turin. Finally, I think it's interesting to note that this miracle occurred in a church dedicated to Saint Longinus. Longinus was the Roman soldier who, at the crucifixion, after Jesus' death, thrust his spear into the side of Christ. And when the water and the blood flowed out from Jesus' side onto the soldier, he exclaimed, "Truly, this was the Son of God." So hopefully, as we approach Jesus in the Eucharist to receive his most precious body and blood, we can exclaim with Saint Longinus, "Truly you, Lord, are the Son of God." Hopefully this Eucharistic miracle and others like it will increase your faith and your love for Jesus in the Eucharist. May God bless you.